Welcome to the Top Secret Wedding Podcast, and today's quick tip is...
When you're starting a business, do not be afraid to reach out to other business owners. They want to help you.
Awesome. Let's go. This is the Top Secret Wedding Podcast, where we share top secret tips to help you take your wedding game to the next level.
I'm Annika, and I'm a wedding coordinator, enthusiast, and venue manager for one of the best venues in Idaho.
I'm Chris, and I'm a DJ, master of ceremonies, and all-around lover of weddings.
We're on a mission to improve weddings and wedding professionals everywhere.
Today, we are super excited to have with us Kira. She is one of the owners of LaBelle Lake, among a lot of other businesses. She started a lot of businesses, and we're super excited to talk to her about that process of starting a business and some of the difficulties that we get into there. So, Kira, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, so yeah, give us just a quick rundown of some of the businesses. We were talking offline before, but give us just a quick rundown of some of the businesses you started.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah.
So first one was the Rock Gym back in 2008. My husband and I started it while we were dating.
It's your meet cute.
Yes. Like yeah, good times.
You reach for the same handle or whatever.
Well, I used to wonder what normal married couples did because all we did was the Rock Gym. Like we started while we were dating, got engaged, had to find someone to be there while we were getting married on our honeymoon. And then that's all we did for the first couple years of our marriage. We just did the Rock Gym every night. But it was great. We got to know a lot of really good people. And so that was the first one. And then the next one was a business called Fun on Wheels. It was a gymnastics bus, which sounds very funny. But it's cool. a mini gymnastics center on the inside of a school bus. And we would bring it to preschools and daycares, just to places where kids normally wouldn't have the opportunity to go to a gymnastics class because their parents are at work all day. So that was really cool to bring that to younger kids, ages 2 to 8.
I would have loved that.
It was so fun.
I would have gotten in so much trouble with that, though. That would have been so much fun.
My kids enjoyed it. They came with me and taught the classes and everything. Cool. So we ran that for about 5 years and then sold the business. We started Teton CrossFit, or we bought into Teton CrossFit, actually.
Okay.
And then we bought a fourplex a little bit after that, and there's 2 commercial spots in it. We fixed it up. We flipped the whole thing. There's 2 apartments upstairs and then 2 commercial spots downstairs, and we rented those out, and we started a business in the back. We did the Rock Gym Rigby for a little while before we started this new facility. Okay. And then...
Listen to her. She's running out of breath from all the businesses that she's listing. That's impressive. I love it.
And then back in 2017, we started LaBelle Lake. Okay. And that was quite the adventure.
Yeah. I think I was there that first year. I think I was one of the vendors that was there that first year. And you've made a lot of them.
Oh yeah, we've never stopped. Yeah.
You still, every time I'm there, your dad's building a tree house or something. Great. Yeah. It's great.
So that was in 2017, and then when we started LaBelle Lake, I also started doing more videography type things because I was, we bought a drone and started doing videos to promote the business. Yeah. And then I just started recording wedding videos along the way just to promote weddings. Sure. And discovered how much I loved that. So then I, a little later started doing wedding videography. And then 2018, we started the Ice Palace. Right. And that's been a big adventure.
It was that soon after starting LaBelle Lake?
Yeah, it was the first winter open. We're like, okay, it's winter. What do we do? I mean, it was that September we started talking about it.
I had no idea it was that early.
Yeah, cool. We really just jump on things. You get the idea and just... Ready, fire, aim. Ready, fire, aim. Just go for it. Yep. Oh, man. I recently, we've got a few airplanes, and my husband got his pilot's license, and we're starting to rent those out.
That's cool. I've seen some of your, I don't know if they're TikToks or Instagrams or whatever. It's so cool seeing you guys we're just going out for a flight. It's so cool.
Yeah. So... I think that's most of it. There might be one missing in the middle, but anyway, we really found the love of starting businesses and just adding value, and that's a big part of why we do what we do. We don't have a rock climbing gym because we like rock climbing.
Right.
It's because we love the atmosphere and adding value to the community and giving people a place to go that can feel like a second home.
Yeah. And I love that. I think, let's jump into what you were talking about a little bit with the E-myth, right?
Yes.
Which I'd never heard of this term. In my notes, I wrote down building a business from the wrong direction. Because so often, especially in the wedding space, a lot of you have your wedding and you realize, oh, I did a good job planning my own wedding. I could be a planner. Or like I did some photography in high school and I'd like to try this as a business. And people start from that direction thinking like, oh, I think I'd like to do this and maybe I can get paid for it. But that usually isn't the best way to actually make money because you don't have a business plan and all that. So tell us a little bit more about the E-myth.
So it's really funny you haven't read that book because that's really the premise of it. In the book, it talks about this lady that loves baking pies, and she's really, really good at baking pies. Yeah. And so everyone's like, you should start a pie business. You're so good at making pies. And she's told this for so long. She's like, okay, I'll start a pie business. And then she's baking pies all day, every day. And she starts hating baking pies because she's turned into the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. It's hard to be all three. You can only do that for so long.
Right.
So, but unfortunately, I mean, a lot of times when we start a business, we have to be all three for a little while. But that's the goal, is to step away from the technician spot as quickly as possible. So if she's baking pies, she needs to step away from baking pies as soon as possible.
Right.
And then she moves into the manager position. But again, you're the manager and the entrepreneur. It's hard to be both. So you've got to step away from the manager position as soon as possible, and then you can be the entrepreneur.
Interesting.
So that is the E-myth, the entrepreneurial myth.
That makes a lot of sense. I feel like even with our experience with like Ice Palace, we've always joked like, oh, well, we just wear so many hats. Like, that's just how it is. But the more we've been able to organize and step back, just the more success we've seen.
The more you can focus on the business,
Exactly.
the entrepreneurial side of it. It does take time, but if that is your focus and you realize that that's where you need to get, then you can get there.
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot because the reason that I do what I do is because I love doing it. It's just so much fun being able to DJ and MC and like create these magical days, right? That's what I love doing. But I also know that I need to be able to, save up for retirement and like all these, adulting things. And another thing that hit us, especially in 2020 with the pandemic, is where everywhere else was shut down, we kind of were not for most of the year. And so we expanded and people were like, Chris, we want you to DJ for us. I'm like, there's one of me. I can only be at one place. And so I hired some people so that we could have a similar experience with those other people. Then I realized I'm doing a lot of managerial crap I don't want to do. Like, this is not fun. So I've had to, every step that I take, I have to remember, like, where's the balance between making a living and doing what I love? Am I significantly taking a step towards or away from doing what I love? And I have to readjust and reassess. And some people like you kind of start the business and then you stop working in the business and you start working on the business.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit more about like that balance for you.
So, I mean, it definitely takes time. I mean, like the rock gym, we started it while we were dating. First 2 years of our marriage, we were there every single night. We were the technicians, the managers, and the entrepreneurs. Very quickly, though, we tried to figure out a way to get that technician hired.
So to define that, I think I understand what you mean, but define that a little more, the technician.
The technician, so the person physically working in the business. So teaching the ballet lessons, taking the payments, doing the everyday work on the business.
Gotcha.
Because there's only so many hours in a day, and the technician is the person that is making the pies or, doing the smallest part of the business.
Right.
Very important part, but more easily replaceable.
Sure.
So with all the businesses we've always started as a technician. With LaBelle Lake, I mean, I was answering the phone calls, I was doing the tours, I was answering the emails, I was working on the business, I was doing the marketing and the website and the photos, and I was doing everything.
So much.
It was a lot. But realizing like, hey, this is for a short period of time. I'm learning everything I need to learn about what this business needs so I can hire the right people.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, because once you learn everything that needs to be done, the the skills that that person needs. I mean, every time at LaBelle, when we lose an employee, we're a little bit like, it's really sad because, you know, we love these people, but at the same time, we're like, okay, we know exactly what we want. We can set our standard very, very high and look for that person. So every time you get a turnover employees, you learn a little bit more about what you need, and you can set your standards a little bit higher.
Fine tune that a little bit.
Yeah, fine tuning. So I feel like all I do is fine tune and problem solve. That's a lot of what I do. My husband's he's the starter. He's the idea guy that just like...
Yeah, he definitely is.
He definitely is.
We're recording in his podcast.
Yeah.
He's just like, I guess we need a podcast.
Yes, and he just gets things done.
Yeah.
We're a good team because I'm a very much of a maintainer and figure it outer, and he's a starter, get it going type person. So
I want to key into something that you said a minute ago that I think is really important, that I think is a good lesson to learn, where when you were first starting, you did everything yourself and you tried to figure it all out. And I think that that's a really important thing that entrepreneurs need to do before they outsource things.
I agree. Yeah.
We started a new CRM this last year, and there was a service that I could have paid to set up the CRM exactly for our business. And I thought, no, I need to get in here and understand how this really works, so that if I send it off to somebody else, that if something goes wrong or they stop working for me, I know exactly what needs to be done.
Yep.
And the other thing is, I think there's value. I was listening to a podcast with Bill Gates, and he said there's magic in that place when you start this new thing and you don't know what you're doing and it doesn't make any sense. But you stay in that place long enough, you'll come out the other side and you'll understand it. So I think as entrepreneurs, you need to get into that space, deal with it, struggle with it. You'll get through it, and you'll be a much better business person because of it.
Yes, and I think that realizing it's okay to make mistakes. So many people talk to my husband Tyler about starting businesses because that's something he's really good at.
Yeah.
But it's funny because they give all the reasons why they shouldn't start the business, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do that, and he's like, it doesn't matter. Just start. You figure it out as you go. Yeah. It's okay to make mistakes. And what I said earlier is, ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
That's honestly a big part of our life. Is we don't we're ready and then we spend 2 years aiming. No, we just shoot, and then you adjust and you adjust. And if I could go back to the beginning of when we started the Rock Gym, I mean, there's so many things that we did wrong or very inefficiently, or whatever that I could. Like, people have asked me all the time, what would you change if you could go back in time? I wouldn't change anything, because all the mistakes we made, we learned from them. Some mistakes are a $10,000 mistake. Some are a $10 mistake.
Right.
Some are $500,000 mistake. But it's worth that knowledge that you gain from that is worth the cost that it takes.
That's part of the cost of doing business.
It is. Yeah.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about one of your ready, fire aims that hit dead center, Annika. Because you brought her in so that you could step away from that technician role, right? So tell me a little bit about that transition, handing things over to such capable hands.
Oh man, Annika is amazing.
Thank you.
Oh man, I don't even know how to so with handing things off, I mean, we pretty much just were partners for a while. We would just do things together.
How long? What did that
Probably
courtship last?
I feel like it was the first season for the most part.
So 2017 or 2018?
It would have been 2019. I started in 2019.
Okay.
So I did everything for the first 3 years, and we had other people that we brought on, but none of them really took full ownership like I did. Sure. Annika was the first one that we brought on that she took full ownership, and she started to improve things as she went.
This is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking for in an employee, is somebody that they can see something and just get it done. You don't want to have to babysit anybody. You don't want to have to be like, hey, we need this done. Do this, do that. You don't have to tell them all the little things. They need to be able to see it and just start working on it and improving everywhere they go. Everything Annika touches gets better. improves. So so that was amazing. So we saw everything she was doing, and then she just kept building the business up. And
Were you trying to transition out of that role earlier than that, and you just couldn't do it until Annika came along?
yes, it was funny actually starting LaBelle Lake. I never wanted to be like venue manager.
Right.
That was not the idea. So I was like, here, I'll help get this started. And I put the website together, and then I started posting, hey, we're looking for a venue manager. And I posted the website that I had created, all the pictures. And from that post, we booked like 5 weddings. And I was like, wait, I was just looking for a manager. I wasn't looking to book all these weddings.
Right, yeah.
So I ended up doing all the tours with these people that were like, we'd love to get married here this year or next year. And so I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm the venue manager now. And we kept still trying to find a venue manager, but nobody was, it didn't work out. We even hired some people. We went through a few different like venue managers and learned a lot from them. In ways of just like, this is what we don't want. You've probably heard a few.
I've heard a few of
them, yeah.
of the stories. And one lady, we started working with her for a couple weeks, and then my dad he just got a really bad feeling about her. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't feel good about this lady. And she wanted like a high percentage of the revenue brought in for her position.
Sure.
And so my dad, he was just like, well, you know, we're not gonna be able to do that percentage. And so she's like, okay, well, then you won't have me as a venue manager. He's like, okay. And then but it was interesting because we saw a very ugly side of her. She started like yelling, getting really mad on the phone. And it was more of a, good, okay, I'm really glad we dodged that bullet.
Yeah. I'm actually grateful when that happens. That mostly happens with clients.
Mhm.
And it's really rare, maybe one time a year, where a client, like, they just like show their hand just a tiny bit. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, thank goodness he found that out right now before we signed anything.
You see a lot of true colors when there's some
Stress.
some stress.
I feel like even we've had a lot of little situations like that. And I just wanted to stress to all the listeners, like if you have some kind of inkling or something, you should listen to it because sometimes it can turn ugly. So
Yeah. And if you do go through with it, even though you had a bad feeling, then you might learn a valuable lesson,
exactly. Yeah.
which I'm sure everybody in this room has done.
Yep.
So, yeah. I also want to talk about, so as you were transitioning things over, before you found her, were there things that, as far as personnel goes, like how did you go about like hiring and firing? Was that a difficult process for you?
I'm not good at firing people.
Okay.
I've actually recently got better at it.
You are better at
Yeah.
it for sure.
I want to, instead of firing, I like to help develop people and like, oh, you're not very good at this. Let me help you work on that. And so that's a difficult thing for me. But as being a leader and being in those positions where it's really like, you know, you got to have the right people in the right seats. And if that's not happening, then it's hurting the business. I've gotten better at that because, and this is, I'm just going to take a little tangent here on firing people.
Please. Yeah. That's what I was hoping for.
We genuinely want the best for everybody that works for us.
Right.
And if they're struggling in a position or they're not doing what you ask them to do, or they're not showing up to meetings, or they're, you know, obviously it's not a good position for them. If they're in a position that's something that they're struggling with and they're not able to live up to what you're asking them to do,
Right.
it's not just to help the business, it's to help them as well. You know, if you're firing somebody with the mentality of like, hey, we really want the best for you, and this position just doesn't seem like it's the best thing for you. You know, you're struggling with it. Maybe a position where you have different responsibilities that aren't, you know, we're a little bit hectic to work for. I know, you know, we're all over the place. So maybe you need something a little bit more calm, structure. Yes, structure is the word. Working on structure all the time. But anyway, if you can go into firing somebody with that mentality, it's easy to walk away with somebody not being very upset, or, you know, like,
No,
equal
exactly.
understanding.
I think that's the thing is it's all about how you approach it. And if you just go in and, you know, rail the person and be like, well, you're not doing this and this and this, like all that's going to do is add fuel to their fire of frustration. Right. But if you really do approach it as like, we want what's best for you and all of that, just like Kara said, it's hard for them to leave really like mad about it. And instead, if nothing else, it just shows that you actually really care about your employees and you want what's best for them. And they're just going to leave as like, oh, yeah.
It's okay.
And you don't want somebody out there that hates your business.
Exactly. You
really don't want that.
I have a really hard time providing feedback to my employees. It's really difficult for me because I want to be the guy that's liked. I want that. But the other night I provided some feedback, maybe I wouldn't say it's harsh. Maybe for me it was harsh, but it was honest feedback because we had some feedback from clients or whatever. And I provided this feedback and they said thanks.
Yes. And that shows the true colors.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows who you have working for you is how they receive feedback.
Yes.
And if they receive it harshly, you're like, oh, that's kind of a little bit of a red flag.
Right.
Like, we're not going to work well together in the future. We'll need to make adjustments here. But yes, so how people take feedback is important.
So go ahead.
Oh, along with that question you asked about hiring people, something that Annika has done a really good job of is the structuring of the hiring process. If you can set the bar really high from the beginning, you do a formal interview, you ask all the right questions, you do the right paperwork, you make it very, very formal that when they start, they're like, oh, okay, this is
a real job.
Yes, this is a real job, which a lot of times that's something that I struggle with a little bit more. I'm like, oh, you seem like you'd be great. Let's get you started,
Yeah.
But structure at the beginning is very important.
I agree.
Well, and I think too, just going along with that, the more structure you can provide, but even with the hiring process, it's going to sound weird, but the more in-depth you can make the application, it's going to weed out anyone who's not as interested,
True.
So if you sit there, one of the basic things I almost always do for job applications is I make a note and say, please send in a cover letter. And if someone sends in a cover letter, I know, one, they know how to read instructions and follow through.
Yeah.
But two, like, they take that initiative and do that even though it's an extra step. Whereas if people are just like sending in resumes and like, I don't know.
You're like, you just want a job. You don't want this.
Yeah. Like we just hired a new assistant manager and we had over 50 applicants apply for that. And so you're just getting 50 resumes and they all start to look the same.
Yeah.
But I think a handful sent in a cover letter and those just stand out because you're like, oh, you really want us to know who you are when we look at your resume.
Just quick little tidbit for those that are applying for jobs.
Yeah.
Do that, do the extra step. When I'm looking at emails that have resumes, if they, either a cover letter or in the email, they say why they're applying, why they think they can help. Another thing that I look for is if they, like, why they want the job. Some people, their response is, I don't know why they do this, but say, I want this job because it will work with my schedule and I need the experience and I need this, I need that.
Yeah.
When you don't want to see what they need, what the hours they need. You want to see how they can help improve your business. Yeah. So if you're looking to apply for a job, it's a very, how can I help improve this business? Do a little bit of research on the business, find something that you think you can improve, and give them that information.
Little side tangent. I always ask, what do you know about our company in interviews? And I can't stand when people come in and they're like, I know you're a venue.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. And like,
you could have taken 5 minutes to...
look at the website.
And then some people, you see that they actually did. They're like, oh, I loved this part on your website when you talked about your family and your motto and, this part. I really love this. I want to work for a business that has this atmosphere.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
I want to take two side steps. The first one, you can think about this hiring process. If you're a solopreneur and you're doing this all on your own, think about this process with your clients, right? Because if you find clients and you start telling them, I do this, I do that, I'm going to, that's what they hear. And really what you should be doing, if you view this as like a superhero movie, you should be the helpful sidekick that gets the hero to the end. Because that's what they need. They want to be the hero of their wedding day, but they just might need a little bit of help. And that's how you should position yourself. We're going to help you have the best day ever. you're going to feel less stressed when you hire us. So it changes the perspective a little bit, and it'll change the way that you perform in your job too.
And that's where the real value comes in.
Yeah.
Hiring this person will make my wedding day less stressful. Yes, that's what I want, you know. Yeah. So you're not just selling good music and good, you know, there's so much more of how they're going to feel about their wedding day and what they're going to remember.
Yeah. When I do my sales calls, we still have to do a podcast about that. But like the last thing I talk about is music. I'm like, music just accents everything, right? If you don't have special moments, the music's not going to do anything.
Yep.
So, so that's tangent number one. The second thing that I wanted to touch on is going back to the firing stuff. So I think in providing feedback, the first thing that you have to do if somebody does something really wrong, they show up like super late, they don't show up. First thing is you have to be human about it, right? You got to say, what's going on? How you doing? You okay? Like, everything okay? Because at the end of the day, like, we've had those days too. We're just like, I just can't handle. Right. So that's first. And then when you're providing feedback, I just recently read a book that was super good. I don't remember the name, but it talked about when you provide feedback, when you provide praise, do it with emotion. When you provide correction, do it with no emotion. Do it with just facts. Facts for feedback and praise with emotion. And that will help those instances go a lot better. So that's that. Okay, the next thing I wanted to ask about is from your perspective, how that was, because you basically inherited a lot of the trauma that they had from past people that they were trying to work with. Maybe trauma is too strong a word.
Yeah.
But what was that experience like trying to get that set up and set of processes and take over from the owner, and not just the owners, but this was their home. Like, this is where she grew up. So what was that process like?
It's funny. I knew this question was going to come up.
Yeah.
And it feels so long ago that it's like hard to look back.
It is kind of a long time ago.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like all growing up, I was always taught, take initiative. Like, just be the person who takes initiative, you know? And so I feel like going in, you know, of course, at first, when you step into a position, you want to learn everything. So I was always just like curious sidekick. I was like, teach me everything. Even still now, I'm like, teach me, like, you know.
Sure.
But I feel like, you know, having a respect for knowing, okay, this, you know, they've started this was their family home. And, you know, respecting that fact is, first of all, just so crucial. It's not just, oh, well, this is my experiment. Like, no, it's their family home, and how can I improve it, you know? I think then the next step was just slowly but surely seeing where we can improve, you know? A lot of it was taking experiences from my past and going, okay, like one of the very first things I feel like I brought in was our details meeting that we didn't really do before, you know?
Yeah.
My first season there, we would have couples who come in, and really the first time you meet with them is the day of, and you're like, oh, hi, I'm here.
That stresses me out.
But, you know, I said, hey, like, this, you know, the wedding venue I got married at, we had this little meeting like a month before, and when I got married there, I didn't even know that was a thing. So when they called and said, oh, we need to meet with you, I was like, about what? Like, you know, but I went in and did it, and I didn't even realize how beneficial it was till I was the bride sitting in that seat and was like, wow, like, this is so cool. So I took that to LaBelle and was like, hey, like, I think we need to have this details meeting. And, you know, again, just pitching, these are the pros of it. This is, again, just having a whole rounded pitch of like, this is what it will entail. This is what it'll cost. This is what the benefits will be. You know, really just highlighting all aspects to the owners is crucial in developing, you know.
Showing them the whole picture instead of assuming they'll be able to see what it might look like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, go ahead, take note. We started a wedding venue without knowing anything about weddings other than just, you know, the basic things most people know about weddings. Like, we just started it. And so we learned very quickly, and also being very open to learning. You know, I don't think I've ever been like, oh, we're so good, we know everything. It's like, you know, please bring in all the feedback. We want to hear all of it. Oh, that sounds like it it's on the right path. Let's move that direction. Like, let's always search for ways to better the business.
Yeah.
Which you've done. I really I have seen your progression, and it's been really cool to watch.
Yeah, you've probably seen the progression more than most people of really from the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's I mean, at this point it's a world-class venue in my mind. When it started, it did feel a little bit like we're a family who's starting a business with our property.
Oh yeah.
But very quickly you guys, I mean, and that's just kind of your family, very quickly you guys kind of figured out some crucial things.
So when we start something, we want to do it well, and we understand that a lot of that, it doesn't take the knowledge. You don't have to already have the knowledge to start something. You start, and then the knowledge is out there.
Yeah.
Online, there is all the resources you would ever need. So when you hire someone if they have that initiative and being able to recognize hey, this is a doer.
Right.
This is someone that if we give them a task and they don't know how to do it, they will figure out how to do it. That's one of the most valuable things that we look for.
Yeah. I love it. Do you have some more time to spend with us?
Yeah.
I'm thinking we make this a 2-part episode.
Oh, yeah.
Should we do
Love
that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have a thought? I didn't mean to
Yeah,
catch up.
I just had one quick thought too. I feel like it's important too, when I first stepped in, that is obviously the first moment where you're like, okay, well, we could improve A, B, and C. But it's so important to continually reevaluate your business, and there's always ways to improve, So even though, I've been here now for 4 years or something, even just yesterday in our meeting, I talked to our team and I said, okay, so where are the friction spots? How can we improve? And just, it's so important to always be looking for ways to improve.
Yeah. I love that. One of the things that I often do when I go to a wedding, I'm set up, I'm ready to go. I go sit in the bride's chair, wherever that is. I sit in the bride's chair and I just look and I see, is anything out of place, especially with my DJ system? Is there a chord that looks funky, right? It's how do I make sure that I'm removing those pain points that they might see? And you should be doing that in your business, whether it's through the sales process, the onboarding, the offboarding, the planning process, whatever it is, you should be looking, like you're saying, you should be looking at that. Where are the pain points? How do we alleviate those? Because that's what people will pay the big bucks for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, let's so come back for part 2. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Top Secret Wedding Podcast.
Subscribe, rate, and review us, and we'll see you next time.